Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I just thought I'd return to you tonight for this next, pretty much album review for KK's Priest, Sermons of the Sinner, their first album in their discography, their debut album. I got a chance to listen to for the 10 tracks, which is like a 50-minute record. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the Tim Ripper Owens band, also KK Downing's band too, of course, because Tim Ripper Owens joined in this band with KK Downing. So they both, I guess you could say, formed it, or KK Downing did. But I'll let you know my thoughts on what I thought of KK's Priest, Sermons of the Sinner. So let's dive into this album review now. From what I listened to, Incarnation was actually a pretty good intro track. Definitely intrigued me for how it sounded, so it's a good 4.75 out of 5. It's just an intro track, it's under a minute. So it goes into the next track, which is I'm going to talk about right now. Hellfire Thunderbolt is the next track, and that's another pretty good one. I think Tim Ripper Owens' vocals sound pretty solid enough to get through this song. But then there are some dull moments during this song that I felt kind of like a copy and paste of Judas Priest in a way. But in its own way, I think they did alright for this one. So it's a 4.75 out of 5. Sermons of the Sinner is actually a solid title track, not one of my favorites, but not one of the best. So it's a 4.5 out of 5 for this one. As the title track alone, it's good, but it just has its issues. This one with how Tim Ripper Owens is singing this song, and just execution-wise, it was alright for the runtime. So it was like almost 6 minutes of a song. So you're in for a lengthy track, but overall, 4.5 out of 5. Then we get Sacerdote y Diablo, which is a good song. I think this song did have some repetitious moments with the chorus, like relying on the chorus a bit too much. But overall, it's good for how it sounds. Tim Ripper Owens did good on this track, and execution-wise, it's alright for how it sounds. So 4.5 out of 5. Then we get Raise Your Fists, which is an average track. Not one of the best, but not one of the worst. So it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It just is kind of relies on the chanty chorus with how they say raise your fists, and it's a little edgy of a track, in my opinion. But it's not terrible, it's just an average song to get through this record, so it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Then we get Brothers of the Road, which is one of the worst songs on the record. I wasn't feeling for this song overall. I think with this track, it's just cringe all around. And keep in mind, I gave this a shot. I gave the KK's Priest record, Sermons of the Sinner, a shot, but I will discuss a little more about that as I go through the rest of the review and give you my final thoughts on what I think of this album. So it's a 2.75 out of 5 for Brothers of the Road. It's very cringy, and it just plays it too safe, and it's on the cringy, cluttery, kind of disappointing track on this record. So yeah, 2.75 out of 5. Then we get to Metal Through and Through, which actually does have some good moments, but then there's some weak moments as you progress through the track that kind of outweigh the good moments, and not in a good way. But it's mediocre at best. So 3.75 out of 5. Tim Ripper Owens' singing is solid, but not anything special. So it's one of those mediocre tracks you can appreciate, but kind of have your opinions about. Wild and Free is kind of on the safe side. It's an okay track. It's going to get a 3.25 out of 5 for me. I think this song it did have its moments where it did good or was okay, but it's just the way Tim Ripper Owens was singing it. It was just one of those kinds of tracks that was just basic and generic, and you can appreciate it a little, but not enough to give it a great passing grade for a song rating. So it's a 3.25 out of 5. The guitar work and drum work from KK Downing with the guitar work is pretty solid enough. So it's okay. Hail for the Priest is a good song. I think this one is going. I think the last two songs go back on track with the record, but it doesn't keep me invested in most of this record. Kind of leaves me a little dull and bored with this record. So, Hail for the Priest is a 4.5 out of 5. I think this song was good. It's going back on track with how the record's progressing, even though some of the second half started to collapse a little bit, and a little of the first half at the end of it, and then a few moments or a few songs in the second half did collapse on its own. But overall, Hail for the Priest is a 4.5 out of 5. Tim Ripper Owens' singing was a little bit better in this one. Return of the Sentinel is a pretty good closing track for 8 minutes and 59 seconds. You're in for quite a banger of a track, so I was impressed, but I do have my complaints with this song a little bit. With how it's executing with the guitar work and drum work, it's fairly solid, and the way Tim Ripper Owens sings it from time to time, it's alright. So, 4.75 out of 5. Overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I thought KK's Priest Sermons of the Sinner was kind of meh. It's not anything special. It's not something I'm going to return to, like, per se, in the next day or so. It's a little forgettable. A little, but it's meh in its own way. I think the way this record was produced, the worst song on it is Brothers of the Road. That song fucking sucked, honestly. I tried giving it a shot, and I was so displeased with that song. I mean, there were times where I was trying to get used to how Tim Ripper Owens was singing in this record, but I don't know, he just wasn't one of my favorite singers for who used to be with Judas Priest for a time, for 2 albums, which, you know how those albums turned out. They weren't great, but they were serviceable enough to keep going through Judas Priest's discography before Rob Halford came back. But honestly, this is kind of a copy and paste kind of record with how they're kind of trying to sound like Judas Priest in a way. And I know that's what they're doing, but I can understand why they did what they did for this record. But give me a second, I gotta pause the video. Sorry about that, guys. My mom was talking to me for a second, but pretty much if I were to give KK's Priest Sermon of the Sinners a score, or Sermons of the Sinner, I meant to say, a score, it's getting a mass 6 out of 10. It's really underwhelming, but at the same time, I'm in the middle with this record. Not one of the best debut records for the start of KK Priest's discography, but it's serviceable enough to listen through, but very meh. Not really listenable, but there's a few tracks I can come back to, but everything else is kind of cluttery and cringe in its own way. But like I said, it's safe, but I'm in the middle with this record, so 6 out of 10 for KK's Priest Sermons of the Sinner. I hope you enjoyed this premiere video tonight, and thank you guys for watching.